Bombshell tonight in the Nolan Wells investigation. Tonight, a Nolan Wells phone evidence torpedo. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
Oh, but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me that they all passed.
Nancy, my clients have not taken a polygraph test.
Nobody's guilty. And everybody's a suspect. We don't know the truth yet, but we will.
We have had multiple witnesses reach out to us, two confirmed witnesses that saw Nolan Wells on the island around 6 p.m. on July 4th, well after the Triton, as you said, left around 4:30. And so those witnesses have went to investigators, they've talked to the police, and they've done what they're supposed to do. These witnesses know Nolan. They've known him for a long time. They were able to make a positive ID, and they told that to investigators. They told them that from the very start.
What witnesses? Where? Who, what, where, why, and when? That is a renowned trial lawyer named Tyler Cox, and he is representing the acquaintances of Nolan's that took him to Horn Island on their boat, the Triton. Curious, we've seen, hey, let's pull up that video control room of everyone getting on the boat before they went to Horn Island. It's very interesting, evidentiarily. Okay, here we go. This was from the Officer Tatum show, and you're about to see people. There they are down at the right. And there's actual video of people see the boat at about 1 o'clock. Oh, there we go. Excellent shot, guys. People are getting on, people getting off. And it keeps going to where you see everybody that got on the boat. But here's my big question tonight, before I can even get to the alleged witnesses that Tyler Cox is telling us about. Dave Mack, joining me, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Can I see the video again, please? Dave Mack, I'm seeing everybody preparing the Triton to go out, preparing to go out. In this shot, they're down at about 3 o'clock. Okay, keep looking. 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then suddenly you switch to a different camera. There you go. That's the boat. So Dave Mack, where is the evidence? Where is the video of the boat? Is that Nolan right there, walking along the light blue shorts, and he at that time had on a white shirt? I think that's Nolan right there. Dave Mack, where is the evidence, the video evidence of them coming back?
Nancy, we have not seen evidence of them coming back. Remember, 3 boats caravanned out to the island, and then we have different stories about when they arrived back on the mainland. But we don't have video of any of them showing back up. So we don't have that
video.
Correct.
Okay, let's circle back to the alleged witnesses that... He's a great trial lawyer, by the way. Wins a lot of cases. Is Tyler Cox. He's representing the acquaintances that went to Horn Island with Nolan. I've got to get to the phone torpedo, but he's not the only one that says they have witnesses. Listen.
These 2 witnesses, 2 very reliable, very credible, and very upstanding members of the community, they saw Nolan, and they've known Nolan for years. There's no chance that they made a mistake. And by the way, this can be corroborated through other evidence, other eyewitness accounts. And that's the end of it right there.
That's from the Officer Tatum show. Susan Hendricks joining me, veteran, investigative journalist, author of Down the Hill, My Descent into the Double Murder in Delphi. What witnesses? I understand that there's video and witnesses. One places him there at 5, one places him there at 6. Significance, the Triton, and we can show this by GPS. They are right about this, left Horn Island around 4:30. So if he is spotted, and you can confirm to me that he is spotted there at 5 or 6, if that video has a timestamp on it, and I can corroborate that, or I can corroborate the witnesses weren't drunk. Hey, let's see that video control room again of Nolan bent over, and all you can see is his blue trunk right there. Now that's not a very good eyewitness right there. Okay. Do I think that's him? Yeah, I do. I do think that's Nolan, but I would tear that up in court. Tear it to shreds. There's all sorts of, you know what? Hold on, Susan Hendricks. Greg Morse joining me, veteran trial lawyer, founder of Morse Legal. He's in the Southern District of Florida, former West Palm Beach public defender, and author of The Untested. Greg, in Florida, as in Georgia, as in this jurisdiction of Mississippi, the code, the official code of Mississippi, annotated, lays out how you establish or cross-examine, same thing, same criteria, an eyewitness, such as, I memorized them. How far were you away from the witness? From the target. What was the lighting? Do you wear glasses? Were you wearing them that night? Were you inebriated? Had you smoked pot? How can you prove that to me? Did anything obstruct your view? Was it daytime or nighttime? What time of the day was it? What were the conditions? You go on and on and on. You can rattle them off, right? I know you can. So
absolutely.
How do I know the eyewitness can't identify anything except the back of his legs, like in that video?
Well, that's the thing. There's no details about any identification. It's just a broad statement that other people saw Nolan after the boat left. The video you just showed shows from a view from behind of someone bending over. Did the person have sunglasses on? Were they familiar with who they were actually looking at and identifying? How much had they drank during the day? It was a party scene. That's what usually these boat spots are. There's one by me in West Palm Beach, very similar setup called Peanut Island. So most people also, right, they don't think something's important until after the fact. They're just going about their day, notice people walking by. So from what you showed, that's not a very strong identification from that position, but there's no details.
While I've got you, Greg Morse, let me throw another question at you. And look, I'm not wearing a prosecution or a defense hat. As you know, I'm a crime victim. I would say I'm coming at it from that angle. But I was very disturbed, Greg, when I got wind that there is no criminal investigation. It's been said over and over and over. Why not? We don't know how he died. For instance, if he did have water in his lungs, okay, maybe he did drown. But how did he get in the water? Did he fall in the water? Was somebody, wrestling with him in the water and they held him down? They went, oh my stars, I killed him and left. Did he hit his head? There's a lot more to it than saying, oh yeah, he drowned. How can someone state there is no criminal investigation? I understand a grand jury is about to be convened. That doesn't mean there's a crime, but doesn't that suggest to you a grand jury inside the Superior Courthouse, inside the district attorney's office would suggest there is a criminal investigation?
Well, it would potentially lead someone to believe that, yeah, a criminal investigation was undergoing. However, when we look at how this has played out over the last 6 weeks, how law enforcement has acted, they haven't seized Nolan Wells' phone at this point. In a criminal investigation, law enforcement's going to use those tools to get this information.
Are you
this could
sitting
just
down,
be a drowning. I'm sitting down, and this could just be a drowning. And that's why they're looking at it that way, because nothing's told them it's
yet.
But everything's not a crime. It doesn't have to be investigated as a crime.
A phone can be silent and still tell a story. In the Nolan Wells investigation, that story may begin with what is missing. The messages, photographs and Snapchat activity that Nolan's family says appeared to be gone when they recovered his device after the July 4th boat trip. But the most important question is not simply whether something was deleted. It is whether Nolan's phone can establish a reliable timeline for the hours between his last confirmed movements on Horn Island and the moment his body was found. That is why the phone has become the centre of a dispute involving Nolan's family, the district attorney's office, and the attorneys representing the young men who were with him that day. The family says it was prepared to make the phone available for a joint forensic examination. But the two sides disagreed over the conditions, the timing, and who would be present when the device was examined. If the phone only confirms the public timeline, it may help investigators organise the case. If it contradicts that timeline, the consequences could be much more serious. This video examines what has actually been reported, what remains disputed, and what Nolan's phone could and could not prove. The information is developing, and the allegations discussed here have not been established as facts. Nolan Wells was 18 when he disappeared during a July 4th outing to Horn Island, a barrier island off Mississippi's Gulf Coast. He had travelled there with friends aboard boats, including the Triton, and he did not return with the group. His family reported him missing after learning that he had not come home. His body was later found near the island on July 6th. From the beginning, the case produced a difficult distinction. Authorities suspected drowning, but suspicion is not the same as a final determination. An independent autopsy commissioned by the family later listed both cause and manner of death as undetermined pending further investigation. The report identified the condition of the remains as a limitation and said it could not rule out the possibility that non-accidental factors contributed to or caused Nolan's death. It also described a red discoloration at the back of his skull as inconclusive and requiring further investigation. The state autopsy had been completed, but its results had not been made public in the sources reviewed. That matters because a phone cannot independently explain how Nolan died. It cannot replace an autopsy, toxicology, physical evidence, or witness interviews. What it can do is help establish a sequence. Where was the device? When was it active? Who contacted it? What did it record? And what digital traces remained during the critical period? The timeline is the pressure point. According to statements attributed to attorney Tyler Cox, who represents Friends of Nolan, 2 witnesses reportedly saw Nolan on Horn Island at about 5 or 6 p.m. on July 4th. The reported sightings would have occurred after the Triton was said to have left the island at approximately 4:30 p.m., based on GPS information discussed publicly. That claim is important, but it must be described accurately. The witness accounts have been presented through attorneys and media coverage. The public has not been given every detail needed to independently assess the identifications, including the witnesses' exact locations, viewing conditions, distance, and the formal statements they gave investigators. A person seen from behind wearing familiar clothing is not automatically a confirmed identification. A witness who knows Nolan may have a stronger basis for recognition than a stranger, but investigators still need to ask how long the person was observed, whether the face was visible, what the lighting was like, and whether the witness's memory was formed before or after Nolan's disappearance became widely known. There is also video discussed in the available material. It appears to show people preparing to leave and boarding the boat, but the same discussion noted that clear video of the boats returning had not been publicly shown. One image was debated as possibly showing Nolan wearing blue shorts and a white shirt, but the view was not clear enough to treat that image as conclusive identification. This is precisely where a phone could become more than another disputed piece of evidence. If Nolan's device recorded activity after the boat's reported departure, that could potentially support the claim that he remained on the island. If the device was inactive somewhere else or no longer in Nolan's possession, that could point investigators in a different direction. Neither result would solve the case by itself. But either result could challenge assumptions built only on memory and incomplete video. The phone's history is already contested. Nolan's mother, Christine Wansley, has said the family tracked the phone and later received it from friends. According to ABC News, she said some text messages and Snapchat messages appeared to have been deleted. The report also said it was unclear which friends had possession of the device and who may have accessed it before the family received it. The friends' attorneys have denied that their clients touched, possessed, accessed or erased data from Nolan's phone. A letter reported by CNN said the 3 friends never possessed or accessed the device and were not involved in Nolan's disappearance or death. That denial is important because it shows why the phone cannot be discussed as though responsibility for missing data has already been established. There are several separate questions here. Was content actually deleted? Was it merely unavailable in the visible applications? Did the phone synchronize with a cloud account? Could messages have disappeared because of ordinary app settings? Was the phone used by someone else? Or could a forensic examination recover records that were no longer visible to the family? Those questions cannot be answered reliably by looking through the phone's ordinary menus. If you have been following the Nolan Wells case, tell us what part of the phone timeline you believe investigators should verify first. Also, drop a comment telling us the location you are watching from. Please subscribe to this channel so you do not miss future updates on this developing case. A forensic examination usually involves preserving the original device and creating a structured copy of its data for analysis. Investigators may use specialized mobile forensics platforms, including tools produced by Cellebrite, depending on the device, operating system, access conditions, and the authority under which the examination is conducted. The goal is not simply to open a message thread. Examiners may look for databases, timestamps, call records, photographs, videos, application artifacts, location-related information, and remnants of data that may not appear on the phone's screen. But the word deleted needs careful treatment. When a user deletes a file, that doesn't guarantee immediate destruction of every underlying record. Some systems may mark information as available for reuse, allowing recovery until newer data overwrites it. Other systems use encryption, secure deletion, application-specific storage, or cloud systems that make recovery more complicated. A forensic examiner must determine what the device actually retained, so the phrase deleted messages should not be used as shorthand for proof of tampering. It is a claim requiring technical examination. The same caution applies to location data. GPS information may be highly useful, but it is not magic. A phone may be indoors, offline, out of battery, connected to a network with limited precision, or separated from its owner. A location point can place a device in an area without proving who was holding it or what happened there. The strongest digital timeline would come from several sources agreeing with one another. The phone's internal records, carrier data, cloud records, application records, Life 360 or other location information, surveillance video, both GPS and witness accounts. The more independent sources converge, the stronger the timeline becomes. The family has pursued more than one route to obtain that information. In July, court filings reportedly sought records from Meta platforms, WhatsApp, Snapchat, TikTok, and Life 360, including messages, photographs, videos, GPS information, and timestamps connected to Nolan's accounts. That effort is significant because a phone is only one container of digital evidence. If a message was sent through an application, a copy or related record may exist on company servers, on another person's device, in a cloud account, or in a notification history. A complete investigation would not rely on the physical handset alone, but the physical phone still matters because it can contain local information, device settings, authentication data, application databases, and traces that are not identical to what an outside company preserves. For example, a company may retain information about an account activity while the physical device contains details about when the application was opened, what data was cached, or whether a file was once stored locally. That does not mean every missing message can be recovered. It means the investigation must examine all available sources rather than assuming the visible screen represents the complete history. The same principle applies to Snapchat and other applications where content may disappear from the user interface by design. A disappearing message is not automatically gone from every system, and the absence of a message on the phone is not automatically proof that someone intentionally removed it. The technical examination must establish what happened. That is why the argument over access has become so important. The dispute over access became public after a meeting described by the family as respectful. According to ABC News, the family and the district attorney's office agreed to a mutual inspection of Nolan's phone, with experts for both sides present. The family later said it wanted the extraction performed once, with the relevant experts observing the process together. That request was not necessarily a refusal to cooperate. It was a demand for controls over the chain of custody and the preservation of the original evidence. Chain of custody is the record showing who possessed evidence, when they possessed it, how it was stored, and what actions were taken. With a phone, the concern is not only physical possession. It is also whether the device was powered on, connected to a network, unlocked, updated, searched manually, or altered in a way that changed the data. A defensible examination would normally document the device's condition, preserve it in a controlled manner, record the tools and settings used, calculate verification values where appropriate, and maintain a clear record of the resulting extraction. Independent observers can help reduce later arguments about what happened during the process. The family's legal team said the July 15th discussions covered these concerns, including how the phone would be extracted, who would access the copied data, how the evidence would be preserved, and when the phone would be returned to the family. Then came the deadline dispute. According to USA Today and the Clarion Ledger, the District Attorney's Office sent a letter at 11:51 a.m. Central Time on August 12th, directing the family to provide the phone by 9 a.m. on August 14th. The family said it was out of state and could not meet that deadline as written. The family characterized the demand as inconsistent with the earlier understanding. Its legal team said the phone remained available for a joint examination and later proposed dates between August 18th and August 21st, asking the DA's office to select a time with advance notice. That is the documented dispute as presented in the available reporting. It is not simply whether the phone should be examined. It is whether the examination would be jointly observed and whether the family would have enough notice to arrange its experts. The authorities' need for the device and the family's fear of losing control over it can exist at the same time. Investigators may want direct access because evidence can become more difficult to recover as time passes. The family may want independent observers because the phone is the last physical item connected to Nolan's final hours, and because it does not want later questions about how the evidence was handled. Neither position automatically proves bad faith, and the family's willingness to negotiate conditions does not automatically mean that every allegation about the phone is correct. The only reliable way forward is a documented examination whose methodology can be independently reviewed. The attorneys for Nolan's friends have introduced another point. They have said the friends gave up their own phones for examination and have denied having Nolan's phone in the way alleged by some public commentary. A letter reported by CNN said the three friends never possessed or accessed Nolan's phone and were not involved in Nolan's disappearance or death. Those statements are denials, not findings. They should be presented alongside the family's account, not substituted for it. The phone could matter to every version of the timeline. If the device shows Nolan communicating after the boats left, investigators would need to determine whether the activity was direct, automated, delayed, or performed by someone else. If the device shows no activity, that absence may be consistent with many explanations, including a dead battery, lack of signal, intentional non-use, or the phone being left on a boat. If the device contains location data that places it on the mainland, while witnesses say Nolan remained on the island, investigators would need to decide whether Nolan and the phone were separated. If the device remains on Horn Island during the reported sighting window, that could support the witness account, but it still would not prove what happened to Nolan. If a message was deleted, the crucial issue would be the message's content, timestamp, sender, recipient, and the technical basis for concluding it was deleted. A screenshot or a visual claim is not the same as a forensic report. If a photograph or video was recovered, metadata could help establish when and where it was created, but even metadata must be tested. Digital files can be copied, edited, resaved, or stripped of original information. An examiner would need to explain the source and reliability of each item. The emergency call is another digital and audio element investigators have examined. ABC News reported that one of Nolan's friends contacted a towing company about a boat that was reportedly sinking and needed assistance. The caller said everyone aboard was unhurt and that nobody on board was over 21. The friends have said Nolan was not on that return trip. Investigators were reported to be analysing the call for additional clues. That call does not answer whether Nolan was alive on the island, but it may help establish who was on the boat when the return problem occurred, what the caller believed at the time, and whether the language is consistent with other accounts. The phone, the call, the boat, GPS, the witness statements, and the autopsy must be examined together. A single piece of evidence can look suspicious in isolation and ordinary in context. Conversely, a seemingly minor inconsistency can become important when it appears alongside several independent contradictions. That is the difference between speculation and investigation. The available information does not justify accusing Nolan's friends of killing him. Their attorneys have denied involvement. The investigation remains active, and the state autopsy findings had not been publicly released in the material reviewed. Nor does the family's concern about the phone prove that evidence was erased. The reported concern is that the device appeared to be missing certain messages or Snapchat content, and that the phone had not yet been examined by investigators under the jointly discussed conditions. That distinction is essential. A responsible investigation must follow the evidence in both directions. If the phone supports the friend's account, that matters. If it contradicts their account, that matters. If it reveals no useful information, investigators still need to explain the limits of the result, rather than turning silence into a conclusion. And if the examination identifies deleted data, the next question is not automatically who deleted it. The next questions are when, how, on which device, through which application, and whether the data could have disappeared through ordinary use or settings. The phone may be the most visible disputed item in the case, but it is not the whole case. Nolan's family is also seeking answers through outside experts and legal processes. The NAACP joined the family's legal effort in August as attorneys continued pressing for phone access and additional information related to the independent autopsy. The family has said it wants a thorough and transparent investigation. That pressure reflects the central reality. Nolan's family still doesn't have a publicly established explanation for how he died or how he entered the water. The phone could narrow that uncertainty. It could show the last digital moment connected to Nolan. It could identify contacts, preserve a location trail, recover records that no longer appear on the screen, or show that the phone's history does not match the assumptions being made about the afternoon. But it could also deliver a less dramatic result. It might show that Nolan left the phone on the boat before entering the water. It might show no activity during the period in question. It might contain ordinary messages with no direct connection to his death. Even that result would need to be interpreted carefully. The public should also be wary of viral claims that use the word bombshell before a forensic report exists. A lawyer's statement is not the same as a laboratory finding. A screenshot is not the same as an authenticated extraction. A witness's confidence is not the same as corroboration. And a delay in releasing evidence is not, by itself, proof that someone is hiding a crime. At the same time, the family's demand for transparency should not be dismissed as mere speculation. When the cause and manner of death are undetermined, unanswered questions about Nolan's last known movements, possession of the phone, and the handling of digital evidence deserve a clear response. The most important update is not that the phone has already blown up the case. It is that the phone has become the test of the case's timeline. Did Nolan's device remain with him after the boat left? Was it left behind? Who had access to it? What happened to the messages and Snapchat content the family says appeared to be missing? Was the device examined jointly by the family and investigators? What does the forensic extraction show? And does that information agree with the witnesses, the boat GPS, the emergency call, and the medical evidence? Those are the questions that should guide the next stage of the investigation. The story is still unresolved, and the unanswered gap remains the same. What happened between Nolan's last confirmed movements and the discovery of his body? The phone may help close that gap, it may widen it, but until a properly documented forensic examination and the relevant official findings are made public, no one should claim that the device has proved foul play, cleared every person involved, or identified a killer. This video is based on publicly reported information, statements attributed to attorneys and family representatives, and material reviewed from the available case coverage. Claims about deleted messages, phone possession, witness sightings, and the examination dispute remain contested unless confirmed by official records or reliable forensic findings. Nolan Wells' cause and manner of death and the full significance of his phone data should be treated as unresolved pending the completion and release of the relevant investigations. Nolan's family deserves answers, and the evidence deserves to be handled carefully enough that those answers can withstand scrutiny.